Recurring, for God's sake, get the door.
Alright, I'm going. Yeesh. Alright, what do you people want? DH, we got some kids here that want some stories.
No, I said no this year.
Um, they're very insistent. You don't want to know what they're holding.
I thought you told them not to carry sharp objects.
He ain't that type of sharp object.
Hello, and welcome to the 2021 Halloween Forced Edition.
Definitely forced.
Sit down. Don't mind the torture chair, that's recurrings. On a good day.
Oh, didn't know it was in that. So, that escalated.
Anyway, sit down, enjoy. Recurring, no, you can't eat them.
You're no fun.
You can eat one of them, you can eat the one that's disguised as a child that's a grown man.
Yeah, he's Oh, look, there he goes. He's gone. He's out the door.
Ah, idiots. Gotta love them. Anyway, sit down, enjoy, whilst we tell you some spooky stories about being home alone and being careful where you play.
Look at me. One evening when I was in my junior year of high school, my mum and dad went out, leaving me home alone. Yeah, it's always a good thing to do that, isn't it? I had a lot of homework to do, so I spent the whole evening sitting at the desk in my bedroom. My parents left the house around 6 p.m. while I was doing my homework. I put on my headphones and listened to loud music. There was a big storm that night, and my desk was facing the window, so I could see the rain and the lightning outside. My parents got back around 11 p.m. when I saw their car drive up. I took off the headphones, and as soon as my mum opened the front door and came inside, I heard her shout my name. "What on earth happened in here?" she demanded in an angry voice. Confused, I ran downstairs. My mum was standing in the hallway with a furious look on her face. She pointed at the floor and yelled, "Was this you?" I looked down and saw that the carpet was covered in muddy footprints. "I have no idea how those got there," I said. "I spent the whole night at my desk doing my homework." I watched as the look on her face changed from anger to confusion, and then to fear. We both realized it at the same time. Someone else must have been in the house. We followed the trail of footprints, trying to make sense of the whole situation. They started at the back door, which we usually left unlocked. Then we noticed something else. The footprints started at the back door, but there was no trail of footprints leading through the back door. Then all of a sudden, we hear something loud, pounding noise that echoed throughout the house. Then the sound of the front door being wrenched open and slammed up again. Whack! We all ran into the garage and locked the door behind us. My mum took out her cell phone and called the police. "Please come quickly," she shouted. "Someone's in our house." After what seemed like hours, a patrol car arrived with 2 police officers, a male and a female. One officer stayed with us in the garage while his partner went through the house, searching it by room. When she came back, the female officer told us that there was no one in the house and it was safe to go back in. We don't believe it. Not at all. As we were all breathing a sigh of relief, she asked, "Whose bedroom is upstairs on the left?" My parents looked at me. "It's mine," I told the officer. She asked us to follow her, and we walked through the house, and we could see that the trail of muddy footprints leading from the back door, through the living room, through the hallway, up the stairs, and into my parents' bedroom, then towards my room. They stopped at my doorway. The female officer pointed at my door, which had been opened the whole night. Scrawled on it in black marker was the following: 8:47, I see you. 8:53, you forgot to lock the back door. 8:59, you seem focused. 9:24, turn around. 9:47, look at me. 10:15, look at me. 10:37, look at me. 10:49, look at me. For more than 2 hours, someone had been standing in my doorway watching me. To this day, I still shudder to think what could have happened if I had turned around.
Personal injury. I was working as a personal injury lawyer when Melissa came into my life. I fell in love with her the moment I met her. She was a very beautiful woman. I knew she was the perfect woman for me, and someday we would be married. On our wedding day, we took our vows at the altar. She swore she would never leave me. She would stay with me through thick and thin. I promised Melissa that I would always take care of her. I would never let anything bad happen to her. I would always be there to protect her. When we came back from our honeymoon, we moved into a little bungalow outside town. I set up a law office and Melissa took care of the house. Our married life was bliss. We settled into a comfortable routine. Every day after I finished work, I would call Melissa and tell her what time I'd be home for dinner. However, that all changed one evening when I called Melissa and she didn't answer the phone. That was the first indication I got that something was seriously wrong. When I arrived home, I was shocked to see the front door standing open. At that moment, I knew Melissa was in trouble. She needed me to protect her. I grabbed a hammer from under the car seat and rushed inside. "Melissa, I'm home!" I shouted. "Where are you, Melissa?" She didn't answer. There was an ominous silence. The kitchen was empty and the dinner was burning on the stove. I turned it off and looked round. Everything was in disarray. Broken plates, smashed bowls were strewn on the floor. Gripping the hammer in my hand for protection, I searched the house, calling out my wife's name. I found her in the bedroom, lying on the floor. Her clothes were torn, her face was bruised and bloody, but she was still alive. "Melissa!" I cried. "What happened?" "I don't know," she groaned. "A man broke in, demanded money. When I told him I didn't have any, he started hitting me. He wouldn't stop hitting me. I couldn't fight him off. It hurt so much." "Don't worry, I'm here now," I said, trying to soothe her. "Everything's going to be okay." I picked up my injured wife, holding her in my arms. I carried her out to the car. Opening the door, I laid her down as gently as possible in the back seat. Then I hopped into the driver's seat and we drove off towards town. "We've got to get the police," she said. "We will," I replied, "but first I'm going to bring you to hospital." Behind me I heard Melissa let out a little gasp. Her injuries were serious. I cursed the fact that I hadn't been home that day to protect her. I had to get her to a doctor as soon as possible. We drove through town, but on the way we got stuck in a traffic jam. I started honking my horn trying to clear the way. Suddenly I heard Melissa cry out, "There he is!" "Who?" I asked, startled. "The man who attacked me. That's him! That's him!" On the left-hand side of the street there was a man getting out of his car. Melissa was pointing at him. "Are you sure?" I asked. She became hysterical. Tears were pouring down her cheeks and she was having trouble catching her breath. "That's him! That's him!" I pulled over to the side of the road and parked the car. My brain was boiling over with rage. I got out the car, still clutching my hammer. The man was casually walking down the street without a care in the world. I followed him. Then I saw him tuck into a dark alley. I didn't know what came over me. I just planned to rough him up a little, then hand him over to the police. Somehow I lost control of myself and I couldn't stop. It was all over in seconds. When I got back to the car, Melissa seemed to have calmed down. We didn't say a word to each other. I grabbed the tissue, wiped the blood from my hands, and hid the bloody hammer under the seat until we drove off. When we got to the hospital, I helped Melissa out the car, carried her to the emergency room. As we walked through the front doors, she suddenly stopped in her track, grabbed my arm tightly. She was trembling as she pointed to one of the doctor. "That's him," she whispered urgency. "That's him." Then she pointed at one of the nurses. "That's him," she screamed. "That's him."
The bedroom light. There were two girls who were best of friends in school. When they went to college, they decided to live together and become roommates. One night they were staying up late, trying to do some last-minute studying for an middle-term exam that was scheduled for the next morning. Because, yeah, why would you do that early? One of the girls was quite lazy, so she decided to give up studying and went to bed early. The other girl was a hard worker, so she stayed up late because she wanted to do well in the exam. During the night, the girl who stayed up was remembered that she had left one of the books she needed in her bedroom. She didn't want to wake up her roommate by turning on the light, so she sneaked into the bedroom and rummaged around in the dark, looking for the book she needed. She heard some heavy breathing, and she whispered her roommate's name, asking if she was awake. There was no answer. Then the girl heard something moving around in the dark, and she whispered, "Can I turn on my bedroom light?" There was no answer. The girl cleared her throat again and asked, "Can I turn on the bedroom light? I need to find something." Her roommate didn't respond. So the girl sighed in frustration and continued to search for the book in the darkened bedroom. Eventually she found the one she was looking for. The girl took the book and felt her way in the darkness towards the door. She stayed up all night studying and in the morning raced down to the exam hall to take her test. But she noticed that her roommate never showed up for the exam. The girl was worried about her friends, so when she got home she rushed upstairs and knocked on her roommate's door. There was no answer. The girl was getting quite anxious at this point, so she opened the door and turned on the bedroom light. She was met with the most horrible sight she had ever laid eyes on. Her roommate lay motionless, sprawled on top of her bed in a pool of blood. She had been brutally murdered. Then the girl turned around and saw something that chilled her to the bone. Written on the wall behind her, smeared in blood, were the words, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light?"
Drinking water. There was a little girl who lived in an apartment building. One day she told her mother she was going out to play with her friends. Hours later, when the girl's mother went down to call her for dinner, she realized that her daughter was nowhere to be found. The mother asked all the kids who lived in the apartment building if they had seen her daughter. They all told her they hadn't seen the little girl all day. The awful realization sank in. The little girl was missing. The girl's parents called the police and a search of the surrounding area was launched. Of all the other parents in the apartment building joined in the search, but it was fruitless. In the end, the little girl was never found. 3 months later, the residents of the apartment complex began to complain about their drinking water supply. Whenever they turned on their water taps in their apartments, they noticed a strange odour. Gradually, the apartment manager started to receive more and more complaints from the residents about the taste, the smell of their water. He decided that something had to be done, and he told the janitor to test the water storage tanks on the roof. The janitor went up to the roof and began removing the lids from the tanks and checking the chemical content of the water. When he got to the last tank, he lifted the lid and was hit with an overpowering stench. Gazing down into the murky depths, he was able to make out something floating in the water. It was a decomposing body of a child. After the police conducted an autopsy, they were able to confirm that it was the corpse of the little girl who had gone missing 3 months before. It seems she was playing on the roof when the lid of the water storage tank was temporarily removed. Apparently, she looked into the tank and must have accidentally fallen into the water and drowned. The girl's corpse laid there, undisturbed, for 3 whole months. And for 3 whole months, the inhabitants of the apartment had unknowingly been drinking the water that the little girl's decomposing corpse had been floating in. Well, we hope you enjoyed our stories 4. Come back next year, there may be some more.
Without the door.
A plot we have indeed, that Dee has insisted we do.
Yes, that was a sort of surprise in her.
But until next year, I bid you adieu, and help yourself to the cursed candy on the way out.
Yes, make sure you don't pick the one that bites back.
They all bite back.
Yes.
Anyway, enjoy, goodbye,
Auf Wiedersehen.
good luck, and sweet nightmares.
Bye.
and our shadows.